All right, what is up, everybody? 360 in the house, and we are going to go ahead and do our weekly market review. It's going to be pretty intensive. There's quite a few macro charts I want to look at, and of course, we're going to be looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then probably Thursday morning, we're going to do an Altcoin Madness, and we'll be doing that live on YouTube. So we're doing this one pre-recorded. That way we can post it first thing in the morning and get it out of the way. So what we're going to start with right now is dominance of the crypto cycle. So if this is your first cycle, you may not know this. If this is your second or third cycle, then you already know that the cryptocurrency cycle evolves in a particular manner. And the first part of that cycle is that Bitcoin maintains the dominance. And that means the more money's flowing into Bitcoin than is flowing into anything else in crypto. That means there's more money flowing into Bitcoin than is flowing into Ethereum and then is flowing into altcoins. That's all dominance means. So when we look at a dominance chart and we see these ups and downs, that's what you should be thinking about. Is more money flowing into this item, or is more money flowing elsewhere? And these dominant charts help us to see that and kind of tell us where we are in the cycle. Now yes, many macro fundamental dynamics have changed from all previous crypto cycles into this cycle. We know about quite a few of those things. I mean, they number in the dozens and dozens, from everything from Wall Street products being available to the new political regime that's come in, that's pro-crypto from top to bottom, the Genius Act that was just signed, the Clarity Act that's due to be signed possibly this month or early next month. I mean, the fundamentals, many changes. However, what is incredibly awesome is so far, the bull market portion of the cycle is running as it has before, in the order that it has before. And how do we know this? Well, because it's been performing perfectly up to this point. Bitcoin has been leading and dominating the entire time since the bear market lows. But we're looking at right now the Bitcoin dominance chart, and we can see from the bear market, Bitcoin has had literally the dominance since November of 2022 all the way till it just lost dominance as of July. And we have validation here on our chart. This is a weekly chart. So each candle bar, each candlestick represents an entire week of price action. I've got two cycles up here because I want you to see how this is changing from cycle to cycle. The easiest thing to spot is to note that the cycle lows are ascending. The dominant cycle lows are ascending. And we now have confirmation that the cycle highs are descending. And you can even pull that all the way back as far as 2017. Now, the reason why this is so parabolically high way over here for Bitcoin dominance is because there wasn't a whole lot of altcoins. I mean, they were very few. Literally in 2016, there was a few hundred. I kid you not. So this is why, Bitcoin's dominance started as high as 96%. Okay. But you can see the cycle thereafter, 2021, it only peaked out off these lows after the 2017 bear market into the 2021 bull market. It only achieved a high of about 73%. And it had that double top, twin peak. Well, we now have confirmed that descending highs continue. So high, lower high, and now we know for sure that it has topped out. It has given dominance up for this cycle and at a lower point. This is literally in the 65-66% dominance. So a whole about 7% lower from cycle to cycle. What does this mean as this moves forward? It means you're looking and watching at the maturity of cryptocurrency as a whole, because as we move into the next, down through the next 5 to 10 years, crypto is going to trade more in unison than it does apart. You won't have these massive dominant swings between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins that we have had. However, we're still working our way towards that convergence, and I want to zoom in on what's happening right now, because you can see what happened when it lost dominance. It never regained it throughout the rest of that bull market. Well, so we're going to zoom in on this price action for 2025 dominance high. That's what we're going to zoom in on. All right, I'm gonna actually go to the daily chart. Yep, and I want to show you how we know we have confirmation that its dominance is over, its reign is over. Now, I want to make one other thing clear. You must understand, and very few actually have done the research to see that this is fact. Every time Bitcoin has lost dominance, if you go back in history, I guess I should have stayed on that other chart. Every time it's lost dominance and it's begun to descend, Bitcoin has continued to make new all-time highs. It's very, very important for you to understand that. Just because it's lost dominance does not mean Bitcoin is done for the cycle. As a matter of fact, it makes usually its most magnificent leg after losing dominance. Well, how is that possible? Remember, dominance doesn't mean money's not flowing into Bitcoin anymore. It's just in comparison to the rest. Remember, it's about dominance. Who has dominance? It means in comparison with the rest of crypto, more money is flowing into everything else than is now flowing into Bitcoin. And what do we know about Bitcoin? Well, we know it's pretty much out of the hands of retailers now. It's pretty much in the hands of nations, states, and institutions. They're really the only ones with the money to be buying it. Everybody else is focusing on other things. So what do we have here? Number one, we have the top. Okay, we almost have like a double top here. This topped out right at about 66%. And then we have the breakdown, but it's a single leg. Okay, remember, a single leg is not a trend. All right, so we're coming off the high, we have a single leg down, and we have the bounce. Now, breaking this low right here, right at this point. So once it made this high, it made this higher low, it made its final higher high. So if you go to that low and you draw a line across, once price breaks that, you have a potential change of character, or a chach, or a chach, depending on who's saying it. So this was the first signal that it was probably over. And it did exactly what we said it was going to do. It was going to bounce, and it did, and it retested. So not only did it go all the way through the entire macro channel in one drop. I mean, this is a significant channel here. This is not, a small market structure. This is significant. So not only did it collapse through, now remember, it's done that before. But there's no downtrend here. So I'm going to show you the difference. This bounces, and this never takes out the low. So you only have a single leg here. So there was a possibility that this was going to be the end. We were tracking it. We thought it might be. The problem is there's still no downtrend. Why? Because it's only a single leg down. Whereas here, you have your leg down. You have a very nice mitigation or recheck of the chach area. That held up as resistance, and then look what happened. You have a new lower low. So at this point in time, Bitcoin dominance is officially trending down. All right, and that confirms with all of our macro charts are all confirming each other. So we're going to look right now at Ethereum. Let me get this set up so you can see it. We're going to back this out as well. Yeah. So this is Ethereum dominance. So this is what Ethereum looked like in dominance while Bitcoin's was what? Ascending. Ethereum had a descending channel. We just looked at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin had an ascending channel. Yep. Note this cycle to cycle. It's the same thing. We do it every time. It's how I know where we are in the cycle. Here's Ethereum dominance while Bitcoin has dominance. But eventually Bitcoin then hands over the reins to Ethereum. And we have that occurring once more. Now, this is actually officially in an uptrend. Let's take a look. I'm going to get rid of some of this so that you can see it. Yep. All right, here we go. So we have our low. All right. We have a single leg up. All right. So that's a single leg up. Single leg, that's not a trend. Got a little bit of a consolidation, and we have our higher low into yet another leg. And another leg. So this is officially trending very, 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 very nicely with all kinds of room to move towards the upside. This is something we're watching very, very closely. Now, it's probably not going to do it all in one shot. As a matter of fact, I see this probably pulling back significantly as Ethereum hits its all-time high. You can see how jagged the Ethereum dominance was over here, all the way up. So far, it hasn't been that jagged, but that's because it just started. But this aligns with the Ethereum chart, and we're going to go to Ethereum right now. Yep, and here you can see, I'm going to pull up a different view here. There it is. So a pullback is likely because you can see Ethereum is closing in on its all-time high. So I'm going to talk real quick about this. This is very exciting because this is a very, very significant quick move up. The odds of this breaking on first attempt are slim. Now that doesn't mean there can't be an extreme. And what that means is by an extreme is Ethereum could come up here and pull any and all liquidity above this level. And that's called an extreme. And you get like a false breakout and then pull back and mitigate some of these levels. Okay. So this level has not been mitigated. And there is inside liquidity down here. So here you have a breakout, but this level has not been mitigated. Now you can see some of these levels on the way up. This is the stair step down. This is why those arrows are drawn over here. Every single one of these, I'm gonna zoom in on the daily chart so you guys can see this a little bit better because I want you to see what's happening. So let me just get rid of that. Yeah. Here we go. All right, now we've got some good stuff to look at. So for this cycle, this is a new high, but it's not its all-time high. It's as high as we've been in this bull market. The previous was a double top set right here, which we achieved in March of 2024 and once again in December of 2024, creating a double top before we got this drastic pullback. We have broken that and now we have a new high for the cycle. However, the all-time high from last cycle is still up here close to 4,900. Okay, so as you can see this breakdown, you can see it take a step, mitigate, take a step, mitigate, take a step, mitigate, all the way down. All right, off the lows and on the way up, this did not mitigate all of these. This moved here and then it mitigated this step, but it then pushed extreme. There's like a 50% run here from here to here. So it doesn't have to mitigate every step on the way up, especially when it has velocity, force, and as much buying as it has had. And you can see it completely skipped the mitigation here. But that's because of where we are in the cycle. We're very bullish. However, I expect there to be some form of resistance, whether at the high, right below the high, or an extreme above the high where it pushes, grabs liquidity, and then comes back down. So the potential is, I'm letting you know beforehand, that it could come back down and mitigate this level. Why? It's very significant. It is a very significant level. So you saw on the Ethereum dominance how it really hadn't lost much dominance. It's pretty much straight up. You see on this chart where we could see that take a little break in Ethereum, somewhere up in here get a pullback. I never expect these to break on first attempt. My goodness, it's been since 2021 since it's been this high. So the odds of this just smashing and running off to Valhalla are slim. However, that is what's coming soon. We are going to witness eventually the breakout. Eventually, I'm not sure what this is going to look like, but somewhere down the line, whether it's weeks or a few months from now, eventually this will begin to climb into blue skies. And that's when it can get really, really fun because there's nothing there to stop it. There's no previous price action. There's no liquidity levels up above this. This is called price discovery. And this is where I believe Ethereum eventually begins to make its way towards 10K. And my ultimate initial target for Ethereum is 15K this cycle. However, it's still too early to tell. I can tell you that right now, we are nowhere close to achieving FOMO volume, such as is normal during its major massive part of a climb. You can see the volume down here. We're nowhere near the levels of FOMO. And so that's how we will use that information to make great decisions. I'm telling you guys, if you're not in the 360 Elite, man, you need to be, because we know where we are at all times and we have this entire cycle. So I want to show you Bitcoin real quick. Then we're going to take a look at one more thing, because we did look at Bitcoin dominance. So I want to show you Bitcoin where she's at. Yeah. This is the massive cone. The massive cycle cone. The entire price action of Bitcoin during this entire bull market. Now remember, it's lost dominance. So it's here now. So at the 115K areas where Bitcoin lost dominance. Between 110 and 115, Bitcoin lost dominance. Well, remember what I said. Bitcoin had lost dominance way back here. Okay? Way back here before it made its all-time high. Remember, just because it's lost dominance does not mean it's done. So what we're doing right now is we're watching Bitcoin. By the way, we have called all of these correctly. Many people were calling this the end of cycle. Many people are calling this the end of cycle. And again here, and I see them doing the same thing right here. Nope, not even close, not even in the ballpark. Why? Because there has never been any distribution by smart money whales and institutions. It has not happened. And I do not believe we ever see it in the way that we're used to in cycles, because of the method and type of accumulation that's going on, such as we've never had in the history of Bitcoin ever, and that is nations, states, governments, and institutions stockpiling this like it's cotton candy. That doesn't mean there can never be a bear market. That doesn't mean there can't be dips and pullbacks 110 days and 200. That doesn't mean that it can't be. But we have definitely entered a different genre and era for Bitcoin. I want to make something else very clear to you. With Bitcoin being out of the hands of retailers, do you really believe that smart money is ever going to make it cheap again or let it be cheap again? Knowing what we know, that they don't care what the price is and they're just buying it. Institutions. Remember, over 165 institutions, plus nations, states, governments. Our U.S. government hasn't even started accumulating yet. Do you ever believe they're ever going to let you see cheap Bitcoin again? That's why I do not understand folks calling for 60K, 50K. I don't get it. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense at all. On-chain analysis says heck no. Fundamentals says heck no. And the stuff that's absolutely happening says heck no. But I want to take a look at this. We're going to zoom in on this right here on the daily. This is the weekly chart, so we're going to zoom in on the daily. And we're going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see where we're at. Yeah, I'm going to show you what I like. So there's some this is a very, very bullish formation. Let me explain why. Because you already had your nasty 110-day pullback. Nowhere near as nasty as the 220 days, but you already had And this ran from the high of the channel all the way to the low. But look what happens next. Not only do you reclaim the median, this is the channel median, guys. Okay, this line going right down the middle. This is the channel median approximately in this area is the channel median. Yep. Not only does it hold as support, so it comes back, gets below, but it holds up as support, but you get your new leg above. So my perspective is this does not come back below the median until this has been touched. All right, so that's going to happen soon. I do believe we start heading in this area range is going to be yeah. So this puts you in the ballpark of 138 to 140K if you hit anywhere up in here. All right, if it hits it way back here, it would have to do it. It would be 136K. But we're talking upper 130s, upper to 140K for Bitcoin next, before we get anything significant as far as a pullback goes. But this is very bullish. Again, the macro price action here is very good because not only does it come off the lows, but the median then holds up. Okay, the median then holds up even after this push back down. So bulls are solidly in control, even though Bitcoin doesn't have dominance. We're headed to 140K next. What are we going to do at 140K? Well, we're going to do the same thing we did at all of these other structures and see if there's any, what? Is there any real distribution going on here? No, there wasn't here. There was profit taking, but no end of cycle distribution. There was profit taking, but no end of cycle distribution. As a matter of fact, there was massive reaccumulation in the latter halves of both of these. We're going to be doing the same thing when it gets up here to assess where we are, what do we need to do with Bitcoin, and make those type of decisions. Yep. So Bitcoin does not have dominance. Bitcoin is not done making new all-time highs. Ethereum, the queen, now has dominance and has not made new all-time highs yet, but that is in the near future. Yes, it is. What about altcoins? I am so tired of hearing everybody call altcoin season. Yep. You cannot call altcoin season. There is only one chart that can. You need to remove the top 10 cryptos. Yes, you do. So you go to crypto total market cap, excluding the top 10. So Bitcoin is excluded, Ethereum is excluded, and the next 8 altcoins are excluded. Why? Because 99% of all the rest of crypto falls under the guidance of this chart, which is the true altcoin dominance chart. And my, this is what we have to look forward to. This is what occurred in the 2016 cycle. Bang! Significant. This is what occurred last cycle. Bang! Significant. Look. This is what's coming. Yes, sir. This is what we have to look forward to. However, you cannot keep calling alt season when alts are still bottoming. They are still forming their bottom. There has been no change of character. There has been no potential reversal of the trend. Right now, the trend is still down. Now, I do believe we have a bottom formation happening just like here. Very similar before this finally breaks out. Let me bring this back down. Here it is. Yep, you see they're almost identical. There's last cycles. This is this cycles. There's nothing wrong with crypto. There's nothing wrong with your altcoins. The only thing that's wrong is you are impatient. So once altcoins, this chart, the altcoin Chachas has a change of character, then we would be looking for what? A new leg. That would be good. That would be a sign of a trend reversal. However, what do you need for an uptrend? You need a new higher high. So not just a single leg up. That's going to be nice. It's a nice start. But we need to set a higher low and then push to a higher high, and we will officially have what you guys are begging for and everybody calls altcoin season. So look, I've seen it 1,000 times on crypto Twitter. It's alt season, baby. Alt season has started. No, it hasn't. I can disprove it with a single chart. However, you can see what's coming. This should excite you greatly. Not just with one cycle. This is what is coming. That was 2016's. This was 2020's. This is what I believe we see for this cycle, as high as 26 to 27% in dominance. Why? You're saying, why would that happen this cycle? I'm going to make it very clear to you. Crystal clear. The approval of the Clarity Act towards the end of this month or the beginning of next month immediately unleashes Wall Street products for spot ETFs for altcoins. And there are dozens and dozens and dozens right now on the desk of the SEC. They will all likely get approved. What does that mean? That means institutional money. And everybody and their mother that's waiting for access through Wall Street will have it. And by the way, how do we know this is going to happen? Are you ready for this? Because institutions are already buying many altcoins as treasury reserves. So they're doing it before retail because they know what's coming. We've seen it magnificently with Bitcoin, which, by the way, when Bitcoin only had about 80 or 90 companies, Ethereum had like 2 or 3. Bitcoin now has like 160. I have to go check. And Ethereum now has, I can't even guess, 65, I think. 3 months ago, Ethereum had like 5. Like they didn't have hardly any. That's how many publicly traded companies are buying Bitcoin and buying Ethereum. And there are many buying altcoins like FET, SUI, XRP, Teo. Doji, for crying out loud. Like many. Sol. Many. It's the start of something so magnificent, and it's going to drive this chart all the way to the top. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I think we're doing Altcoin Madness tomorrow morning. Till next time, baby, here comes the boom.